This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based cellar. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 74 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Liljenwall. I got producer Noah here back with me.
I'm in the flesh. I'm back.
We took I would say we took a bit of some unofficial downtime with the Sounders not playing. MLS playoffs are on international break, but we are back in action, and we have got a heck of a show for you all tonight. We got a jam-packed episode. In the time since we've last recorded, a titanic series of events has taken place, including, but not limited to, the demise of Inter Miami, Lionel Messi, and Tata Martino, as part of a round one that saw all 3 of the top 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference eliminated. It is chaos and anarchy in the MLS Cup playoffs, especially in the Eastern Conference, where the field has been blown wide open. Our brackets are in tatters. We're going to talk about all of it, how our takes got undermined, how we see the rest of the playoffs sizing up with a unexpected field. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, the Seattle Sounders are training ahead of this Saturday's Western Conference Semifinals matchup at LAFC, who they will play for the 27th time across all competitions in 2024. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but it's somewhere around there. It's in the vicinity. I was out at Long Acres today, actually.
You did boots on the ground journalism.
Boots on the ground journalism. I talked to Jordan Morris, did a little about a 5-minute little interview with Jordan. Appreciate him giving me the time. Hadn't caught up with him in a while, so that was good. It was for a story that I'm writing with a co-byline that I'm going to have with Charlie Baum at MLS Soccer. We're doing our preview content. However, since I did the interview, I can just play the audio for you all. You can read the piece on MLS Soccer when it goes live. I still have to write it, but you can read the piece on MLS Soccer that'll have the quotes, or you can just listen to the interview on Lobbing Scorchers. And we're going to be previewing the match this weekend with our friends over at Happy Foot Sad Foot. Shout out Happy Foot Sad Foot. Great LAFC podcast and YouTube channel who we collabed with before, and we collabed with again. It was a good time. So it's a big show. Before we get into all that, I do have to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our link helps support and grow this show. We've got a few new subs to thank.
Yeah, we do. Appreciate
and love you guys as always. Like to thank Tony Huff, Rob Reiner, who may or may not be the famous movie director of Stand By Me. If you're the Rob Reiner, the movie director, please reach out to us.
Yeah.
We would be very interested to know that you're a Lobbing Scorchers listener.
Yep.
Rob Reiner, thank you. Max Kleinman, thank you. And my mom subbed, Mimi Roberts.
Shout out, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
Okay. Sub to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube. We're on the road to 700 subs. We got to 650, but in our little hiatus, we stopped racking those subs at our normal clip. So with us back in content action, we need you all to sub to our YouTube. Road to 700. All right. Noah, no game review this week, which I'm actually kind of excited about because we already know what the deal with Seattle is. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But this round one, it got lit.
It did.
A lot of unexpected stuff happened.
Was this the best MLS playoffs you've seen ever? Just in terms of twists and turns?
I mean, the thing is, I feel like every year there's honestly a couple of these results. Like the MLS playoffs, the top seeded teams don't always make it all the way to MLS Cup. That's how much parity there is. It's pretty rare, actually, that you see the Shield winner go to Cup. You can have years like Seattle had in 16 where you play really bad for a lot of the year, you get hot in the playoffs, You take down teams that are seated higher than you. So even with that said, though, this was crazy.
Yeah.
This was crazy. I did not expect Columbus and Inter Miami to already be out of it before we even get to the semifinals. I mean, I didn't call it. Like, our brackets did not have that.
I mean, my pick is still safe to win the whole thing, but my runner-up Columbus is out. So our brackets are a little chalked. But
I mean, mine is ultra chalked. In fact, a lot of my takes are chalked. I had been telling everyone that Inter Miami was going to easily waltz to this MLS Cup, and they did not. So my take on that obviously didn't pan out, but I'm okay with it because this was really funny, and I think that's a good segue into let's talk about this Inter Miami game or the series against Atlanta United, and then let's talk about just the state of their team after that defeat and their future with the news that Tata Martino is out, which that came out today. I did not see that coming at all. If you told me before the playoffs that they were going to lose in the first round to Atlanta United, I would have been surprised, but I'd be like, it's MLS. Like, that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. But if you told me Tata was not going to be their coach next year after being a Coach of the Year finalist and guiding them to the points record, that's
shocking.
That is a shocker. So let's first talk about what happened to Inter Miami, which is they went into the playoffs this year having just sent the MLS points record. They have the greatest player who has ever played the sport as the centerpiece of their team, face of the club, face of the league right now. They have 3 of his buddies from Barcelona who are 3 of the best players of all time at their respective positions in their own right. And they ran over the entire league, set the points record, got to the playoffs, and lost to Atlanta United. And this is not single elimination. This is a best of 3 series. So they played Atlanta United 3 times and they lost a best of 3. Dax McCarty and Brad Guzan were too much for Lionel Messi. And I guess that's the first thing I wanted to say about this, which is that, we as MLS fans and sickos, we have to deal with a lot of talking to people who talk negatively about the quality of the league. MLS sucks.
Retirement league.
It's a retirement league. It's a bot league. All these players just come over there at the end of their careers because it's easy, right?
Go play real football.
Yeah. All right. That's, you have an Inter Miami team who I've kind of stopped caring about that narrative. I'm plenty secure in the fact that MLS is a decently high quality league with awesome players, awesome highlights every week. It's a top flight league, very talented players all up and down it. There's no point in trying to argue with people who don't acknowledge it as a credible league anymore. However, I do think it's funny that you can have a team as loaded as Inter Miami come across Atlanta United. They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it.
The number 9 seed that got in on the last day of the season.
Whose fans didn't even want them to be there.
We talked about it before the playoffs. Their fans didn't even want them to be in the playoffs. They're coached right now by a guy who played for Orlando City in the USL and has been an Atlanta United assistant for the past few years. And he just takes over as coach whenever they're bad enough that they fire their current coach. Which is
kind of like the Brian Schmetzer of
And Garth is in the same. Okay. This is a tangent. This is a tangent.
We're inside of 3 tangents, this is Lobbing Scorchers.
MLS Inception take. They should just hire Valentino.
I agree.
They should really not bring in these managers of the Gabriel Heinze, Frank de Boer. They've tried that. Literally ride the vibes.
Yeah.
Go with Valentino. He has the Schmetzer 16 thing going right now. And I think Garth is smart enough to understand this. So they should hire Rob Valentino. I believe that. But Inter Miami, like I said, them losing to Atlanta United, that would be one thing. But then it came out today that Tata Martino, their head coach, is out for, as of this recording, all I've seen is that it's for personal reasons, which could mean anything.
Yeah.
It could mean that he's burned out to there's something going on in his life away from the game.
Or that Messi did not want him coaching anymore.
But see, that I find that hard to believe.
Okay, are you here for a conspiracy theory?
All right,
are you here for a galaxy brain internet take?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is the former Barcelona squad. We are rebuilding the best era of Barcelona football. So who better to add to the team than Xavi? He is out at Barcelona. He is out at Barcelona. He was their coach. He is now out. He has been relieved of his duties. Who better to be the next coach? Messi said, yeah, sorry, Tata. You're a bum. Get out of here. I'll pay out your salary. MLS said, whatever you want, King. He's gone. Beckham's happy to keep him happy. And Xavi, maybe, the new coach? More Barcelona juice? I don't know. What do you think? Because he was the batteries of Messi, man.
No, you're right. You're right. And I hadn't thought of that. And I think that's actually a good shout. I don't know about the paying off Tata part about
that's
the
take. That's the
Galaxy brand part of it. But as far as him being the Tata's replacement, I think you might actually be onto something with that. With the timing of his exit from Barcelona, I still did not. I mean, I did not think that was going to happen. Like I said, Tata was a Coach of the Year finalist this year.
He's going to win. Widely, probably.
It could be him. It could be Wilfred Nancy. It's going to be one of the two.
It shouldn't be Wilfred Nancy.
But it would be pretty funny if Tata got Coach of the Year after it's announced that he is leaving the team.
Yeah.
But it kind of does. It makes you think about the exact future of Inter Miami, because as dominant as they looked this year. Okay, well, let's take a step back. Let's talk about what happened to them in this series. How did they lose to Atlanta United? And it's really not that complicated. Their defense is so fucking bad, dude.
It's so bad.
They're one of the easiest teams to play through in the league. And my contention all year, and this is where I was wrong about what happened in this series. My contention all year has been, their defense is that bad. I understand that. I never argued against that. But I thought that their offense at its highest gear, which every time the Barca boys played and they were at their full capacity, they looked unstoppable in attack to the point where it doesn't matter if they ship 2 or 3 goals because they're going to score 4 or 5.
Yeah, they did the bit as we called it
all year. The bit was they would give up the first 1 or 2 goals of a game. Everyone would go, "Oh, Inter Miami's defense is so bad. They're not going to win. They're losing to be like Toronto FC or something. How are they down 2-0 to Toronto FC?" And then Messi turns it up. They score 3 or 4 goals in 10 minutes, and the game's over.
Yeah,
and they did that countless times this year. I think what they found is that when they got in the playoffs, it caught up to them the fact that they don't defend at all. Like their backline and honestly their midfield, even with Busquets, was too easy to play through all year. Even against these inferior teams, those teams would have their chances and they would score their goals on this Miami team. It caught up to them. And I think what it shows is that when you front load a team like this with just it can be as good an attack as you want. It can be literally be built around Lionel Messi himself.
They have a FIFA squad, like an EAFC video game squad.
Yeah, exactly. But if you don't defend, you can always get beat by anybody.
Yeah.
And the fact that we just saw the team that set the MLS points record lose to a 9 seed Atlanta United, I think that shows that.
Yeah. It's been to be fair too, this is the perfect opportunity for a team like Atlanta to come in and beat up on an Inter Miami. They've played a lot of games. They are expecting to win, and Atlanta United kind of know what the deal is. They had beaten Inter Miami before. They knew, listen, we got to score as much as we can, and we just got to do the dumbest possible shit on defense and stop them. Whatever we can do. And Brad Guzan.
I forgot to mention it, but yeah.
Let's jump into Brad Guzan, 49, 85 years old, looking like the best goalkeeper of all time out there.
Brad Guzan has been playing this game. I believe he started in the late 1960s was his rookie year playing professional soccer. He's
Pop Guzan.
But he was out of his mind, and honestly, this whole series made me respect Brad Guzan. I never had a strong feeling on Brad Guzan one way or the other. I have a lot of respect for Brad Guzan after this series. The way he went at it with Suarez was hilarious and great broadcast television. But also, it was just badass. Suarez, I think everyone who follows the game knows that he is one of the craziest guys out there on the field that like anyone who's played against him will tell you this.
Yeah.
He is a maniac out there. He's had multiple like instances in his career where he's literally bitten the opposing competition.
We all get hungry sometimes.
Brad Guzan, Brad Guzan like knows full well who he was going up against, and he did not back down a millimeter. And not only did he not back down, but he was talking shit to Suarez relentlessly. They were just going at it. It was like watching two guys at an AARP meeting, like the two old guys, just like going at it.
It was
senior citizen on senior citizen conflict. But
it was the local
Brad
school
Guzan
board
was
meeting,
talking
man.
shit to him, and then after the Messi goal, the Inter Miami guys were.
They shoved him into the net.
They shoved him into the net, and Brad Guzan he didn't back down in that moment. Leo Campana and Suarez were talking trash to him and pushing him. He didn't give a fuck.
No.
He was drawn right back at Suarez, who is one of the craziest soccer players of all time when he's out on that field. So that was just great to watch in this series.
Yeah, him getting shoved into that net and then just like pushing himself back out like immediately, like using the force of the shove to like come back out and get in Suarez's face, but also having the poise to not like swing at Suarez.
Yes.
Incredible content. I mean, this series, whether or not that this is the best playoffs that MLS has ever seen, this series will go down as one of the most entertaining and just content-filled like stories of the playoffs. Definitely this year, if not in the entire history of the league.
Yeah, well, just when you think about the concept of this Inter Miami team getting eliminated from the playoffs by this Atlanta United team, it's incredible, and I don't care that it destroyed my bracket, which that brings us to that segues into our next couple topics here, which is that so FC Cincinnati also out after losing to NYCFC. We both called that upset.
Yep.
I think I thought that we were pulling a fast one. I thought most people would have FC Cincy. It seems like a lot of people saw what we saw with this matchup, which is that this was a lower seed that actually kind of had the upper hand. FC Cincinnati, I think, are still an upper tier team in the league, but they had so many injuries this year, and their future is a little bit in flux because I don't know if you saw this, but Lucho Acosta,
come to Seattle, King.
Sounder. I think he might have just been emotional after a tough loss, but he said his future with the club was uncertain. Like he literally he said that. So we'll see. And their whole team is built around him. So we'll see what happens with that. But so with Columbus gone, that means all three of the top seeds in the East are out. I mean, what do you think of that? That's just,
I think
Inter Miami, Columbus, since he's not as surprising, but Inter Miami and Columbus both couldn't make it out of the first round. How much have we heard this year about how far ahead both of those teams are compared to where Seattle's at? They couldn't even make it out of round one.
No.
I don't know what to do with that information. I'm just relaying it.
Yeah, I'm not here to say that Seattle is in a better position than any of them. While they did advance, I mean, I wouldn't say that they were in a tougher position than Inter Miami. Like, I don't know. I think Houston is a better. I don't want to play Atlanta. I don't want to play Atlanta. I don't care who you are. I don't want to play Atlanta. They are juiced up.
Team of Destiny vibes right now.
Like in Arthur, like their owner is in the locker room with them popping champagne. He's at all the games. He's buying tickets for their fans to fill up the stadium. Like those vibes. This is a vibes based trophy right here.
16 Seattle vibes.
Yeah,
that's what Atlanta's rocking.
Really
they're the Eastern Conference version right
and
now.
I would not want to touch that. But like, I mean, that's what I'm thinking is obviously whoever's going to come out of the West is going to be the strongest pick for the odds and whatever. And, if Seattle can get past this game, it's one of those where you'd be like, if we win this, that's actually hilarious because that was a blessing by the soccer gods.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is I can see you got it right here.
Yeah. I did want to know one thing before we move on.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
I had my Vancouver take. That they would beat
It almost
LAFC.
hit.
It almost hit.
almost
Oh my
hit.
God. Anyway, I just had to note that for the record
Did
that
we
I was
talk-
close.
Has that happened? Did that happen since the last show that Vancouver almost? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so they had
yeah.
played, and I talked about it on the solo pod. LAFC did wind up winning that series, but Scottish Messi and company gave them everything they could handle.
Yeah.
I don't think Vancouver's not a drastically better team than Seattle is, to where Vancouver should be competitive with LAFC and Seattle can't be.
Right.
So I think that is something to think about.
How do you feel about Brian White, Scottish Messi to Seattle?
Both of them, or
Both of
Brian?
them.
Oh, I
Sign
would,
them both. Let's go.
I would love that.
Yeah, let's do it. That's my new take.
Brian White, low key, like an upper tier number 9 in the league.
Just saying.
All right, so we got the bracket pulled up.
Yep.
You've got this is the one
This
that
is
you filled
mine,
out.
yeah.
I remember what my picks were.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is look at real quick. We'll just go through and look at the series that we missed, and then just briefly talk about what went wrong for the team that got upset or that we messed up.
Yeah. We should start Columbus Red Bulls because we haven't really touched on that one yet.
Yeah, and we did Miami already, so
Yeah.
we can maybe touch on that quickly. But
Yeah.
So Columbus Red Bulls, to me, it seems like, we both obviously had the Crew. You had the Crew going all the way to Cup. I had him going to the Eastern Conference Finals. It seems like they ran out of gas a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they played as many games this year as anybody, and it just seems like in that Red Bull series, they didn't have the juice that they normally have. And then I think you have a Red Bulls team that's low key kind of sneaky.
Yeah,
like
for sure. When they're on, and they were on.
And it's the Red Bulls. They always every year they're a factor. So I think you have to take that into account as well. But the Crew just did not look like themselves in this series at all, especially offensively, where you're just so used to kind of Cucho and Diego Rossi doing like whatever they want out there. And the Red Bulls shut them down and earned that win like that. So RIP Crew.
Yeah. I
maybe
heard,
if they had a backup goalkeeper, they
maybe
would have
if
won that.
they would have been seeded against a different team. Maybe
Sorry,
I'm
Columbus
just saying.
fans, I had to work that in.
I've heard some people saying that with this loss, this is the end of an era for the Columbus Crew. How do you contend with those allegations?
Well, I'll be curious to see if Wilfred Nancy remains the coach. I think he's honestly like, whatever you think of his Coach of the Year candidacy, he's a pretty hot commodity on the global market right now. I think a lot of like French teams in particular are looking at him. So if he moves on, I'm sure they'll get a good coach, but he's arguably the best tactical coach in the league right now. So it's hard to imagine you upgrading on that. If he leaves, that's something that makes their situation more difficult. But I mean, as long as they're built around Cucho and Rossi, I think you could probably ride Darlington Nagbe for another year or two at a high level. I think they'll still be a factor. But we'll see what happens with Wilfred Nancy. If he leaves, I don't know if it's the end of an era, but I don't know if they're going to be as good going forward as they were this year.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens in the offseason. I think this is going to be a really big offseason across the league. I think it's going to be interesting to see what teams. It always is. Like we say, this is a league of parity. Like one signing, two signings can change an entire power rankings of a conference. But I do think the Columbus Crew are a little bit in free fall right now. Just if I'm looking at it in this specific moment right here, that they were at the top and they slipped. And I think Miami slipped as well. So maybe it's still like a 1A, 1B situation. But it almost felt like for a minute that the Crew were just over.
Yeah. And if they don't get back to the heights that they've been at the last couple years going forward, they've had a hell of a run. I'll give them that. They won 2 MLS Cup last year and Leagues Cup this year, so you definitely can't take that from them. It does kind of feel like, I'm sorry, but like their Champions Cup defeat. It's just that if they had won that, they would be a truly iconic, legendary MLS club. I think right now their legacy is of an elite, great team for 3 or 4 years, but certainly not the dynasty that they could have been. But
I agree.
I mean, we'll see what happens with that.
I agree.
All right, what's next?
We had Miami, Atlanta. We'll just hit quickly. I mean, I think I wasn't shocked after the first Atlanta game. I kind of was like, I think this might happen. one, I wanted it for the bit, but two, like it just seemed like Atlanta kind of had a plan and they executed that plan. And Brad Guzan was like playing out of his goddamn mind.
That's really what happened.
Yeah.
Like Miami's offense honestly played pretty much to the level that it normally did. They just went across a goalkeeper that was just too good.
Yeah.
Brad Guzan.
Yeah, he was juiced. Well, we'll jump over to the Western Conference here. And then maybe we can amend our MLS, who we think is going to be an MLS Cup.
I'll let you cook on your Whitecaps take because you almost hit on that.
I did.
So what happened there?
You know, it was a hopeful pick. I think we talked about it.
It was a vibes-based pick.
It was a fully vibes-based pick, but it did almost hit. And I do think the Whitecaps are a good team when they get momentum. And they had that momentum. They really did. But they just could not get it done in LA. And if this was a 2-leg series with aggregate scoring, the Whitecaps go on.
It's a good point.
They win.
It's a good point.
And is that to say that the Whitecaps are the better team? I don't think so. I think LAFC is a much better team, but it's so much more fun.
Like just from a Seattle perspective, like I touched on it earlier, but from a Seattle perspective, I think there is an element of you can look at this LAFC Vancouver series and be like, all right, this is one game. That was a whole series, but Vancouver showed that it can be done. And Seattle already knows it can be done because they did it in 2019.
Yeah.
So this LAFC game, Seattle's the heavy underdog, which we're going to talk about with Happy Foot, Sad Foot. But this can be done.
Yeah, no, it's doable. I wish we were playing the Whitecaps. It would have been way more fun because I just love Vanni Sartini, and any content I can get from them is great. But almost hitting, I'll still take my dub for that absolute bamming that they put on LAFC. RSL Minnesota, we predicted right. LA Galaxy, Colorado, basically everything in the West. So maybe we should go through now, look at what the bracket is, make some selections, and kind of reorient our full bracket and pick a new winner.
Okay.
Because we both have crashed out. Well, I haven't crashed out, but let me pull the bracket up here too, just so I can make sure we're correct here. But starting off, let's start on the East. Atlanta is playing the one and only Orlando. How are we feeling with that?
Oh man. I mean, my gut says Orlando just because I think they're a much better team, but I think with what we were talking about with the Team of Destiny vibes, I like Atlanta. I just think they have the mojo going on right now, and that matters.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not super confident in this pick by any means. Like, I don't think that I would be shocked if Orlando comes and plays great. Again, but they didn't really get it convincingly done against Charlotte. And not that Charlotte's bad, but it just wasn't a convincing win. And to me, Atlanta putting up numbers in a convincing way against the best team in the league is, you got to be riding high from that. So, yeah, I agree. I am on the Atlanta train. So Atlanta goes to the conference final. Who are they going to play? It is the New York Derby. What is it? The Red River? Whatever. Hudson River Derby. Yeah, whatever. The
Red River.
Red River Derby. New York City FC versus Red Bulls in New York.
I think who's going to win the Red River Derby? Man, this is tough because the Red Bulls
they're going to have a mid-off.
This is a good mid-off. They have a good they have good vibes going right now too after knocking the Crew out.
Yeah.
But I'll go NYC because I like their team better. I think they're more fun to watch. They're a fun, young, up-and-coming team, and I would rather watch them in the conference final. So I'll go with them. That should be a good game. Like, that's a derby game, so that could go any time you have one of those. That could go either way.
Yeah, I'm in I hope that New York City FC wins this, but just for funsies, I'm gonna go with the Red Bulls riding hot off that Columbus win with. Essentially, their pieces are clicking. Their pieces are clicking in the playoffs.
And they have Forsberg back. So that's something to think about with the Red Bulls is that, yes, they nosedived pretty heavily the second half of the regular season, but Forsberg was injured for all of that, and they're definitely over-reliant on him, but they have him healthy now, and he's one of the best players still in the playoffs, just talent-wise. So.
But they're playing at Yankee Stadium, I think.
Citi Field, but yeah.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, same one. They're Mets, Yankees. So that's always a factor. So that's going to be an interesting
True,
one.
but like if there's any circumstances where that matters less, I think a rivalry game against a Red Bulls team that has played you on your baseball field 47 times, like, yeah, NYC does have the home field advantage. I think it matters less in this scenario than it would in any other matchup.
Well, I will stick with my Red Bulls
I like
pick
the pick,
then.
though.
Yeah.
I like the pick of a Red Bulls Atlanta conference final. That's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, okay.
But
so
I like this East field. I think this is going to be fun no matter who.
it's a way more fun field than the West, like by a long
lot.
shot. Like I think who's coming out of the West is so predictable. Like it's so predictable.
Other than Minnesota, yeah.
I mean, but like we vibed that one. We did pick that one.
Yeah.
So, but okay. So in our conference final, you have Atlanta, I have Atlanta, and then New York City FC or Red Bulls. So Atlanta, New York City FC. Who are you taking to the MLS Cup?
I want to pick Atlanta so bad. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Atlanta United.
I'm kind of picking what I want to happen more than I think what will happen, but I'm fine with that.
I have Red Bulls in Atlanta. I don't know. That's a tough one.
We're just throwing darts.
Yeah, I'll just go with the Red Bulls at this point, just because like why not?
So I have Atlanta and MLS Cup. You have
I have Red
Red
Bulls.
Bulls.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take
That's
that. Coming over to the Western Conference, the one we are way more invested in here. LAFC versus Seattle, the matchup to end all matchups. Doesn't happen ever. This is the first time they're ever meeting. How do you think this one goes?
I'm just not going to pick Seattle to beat LAFC until they do it. That's
Yeah.
just how I feel about it. Like when you have 6 in a row like this, until I see a pattern break, I'm not going to like pick it to change, but would be more than happy to be proven wrong.
We'll go into it deeper on our happy foot, sad foot thing, but I'm just going to pick Seattle. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not us? I don't think we're going to make it. Well, we'll tell you what's going to happen, but I'm just going to say conference finals, Seattle. That would just be funny. It would just be a good bit. So that is what I'm picking. Next up, LA Galaxy, Minnesota United, one heavyweight, one team on the come up. What's going down here?
I'll pick the Galaxy to win because this is a Galaxy podcast.
Correct.
And I think they're probably going to win. But what I will say is that I think Minnesota United has a really good chance in this game because I'm gonna be careful about my Galaxy hype. Like they're still the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And as much as I've praised them this year, and as much as I think they have the most fun offense in the league to watch, other than Inter Miami at their apex, their propensity for giving up these really ill-timed soft goals, that's the kind of thing that if you do that habitually like they tend to do, because they're the Galaxy, that'll catch up with you in the playoffs. And with Minnesota playing well and Kelvin Yeboah looking like a really good striker in the league, I honestly would not be surprised if Minnesota pulls this upset.
Yeah. No, that would be an interesting one. I'm going with LA as well. I think they're overmatched. I think
Look at what the Galaxy did to the Rapids.
Yeah.
Like that was
dominating. And the Rapids, while they were in free fall,
they're not that bad.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad. And I don't think Minnesota is better than the Rapids.
Yeah.
I think that they are probably a little bit better.
I think they're a little better, but
they're
not
a little
like
better,
substantially.
not leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, LA Galaxy for me. Okay, so this sets up an El Tráfico conference final for you. Who is honking that horn and driving their way on the I-5 to MLS Cup?
Give me the Galaxy. Give me the Galaxy. I'm going to stand on business.
Let's go.
I've been saying all year that I think that honestly people are still too low on them, even though they've like earned their status back as one of the better teams in the league. I think they get it done.
Galaxy. I have Seattle and the Galaxy. I'm picking the Galaxy, man. You already know who I picked to win. I'm going with the boys. Ricky Pouge, Gabriel Peck, Joey Paints, the dream team, our team.
All right, so we
There we
both
go.
have
We
the
have Galaxy in the final from the West. Okay, here's our MLS Cup. Atlanta United, LA Galaxy. Man, star-studded.
That would be fire, honestly. That
Yeah.
would be fire. Maybe not for like the neutrals, but for the sickos like us.
Yeah.
All right, that was actually a fun little exercise.
Are you going to
and,
pick your champion?
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Yeah,
do that
you got to
yet.
do
So who do I have? I have
LA
to-
or Atlanta.
I think I'll take the Galaxy. I think I took the Galaxy to make it against Inter Miami last time, and I picked Inter Miami to win. So now I'll take the Galaxy to
There
win
you
it.
go. And I am Red Bulls, Galaxy. I'm sticking with the Galaxy because I've been on the Galaxy are going to win MLS Cup. So,
Red Bulls would be a crazy story because they've famously never won one.
Yeah.
Despite winning a bunch of shields and making the playoffs for 15 straight years. So
Yeah, it'd be a funny final fumble for sure. We'll try again in the conference final.
All right, what are we gonna do now? Should we do the JMO interview or the Happy Foot Sad Foot section?
Let's stack JMO first, and then we'll jump into the Happy Foot Sad Foot.
All right, right now we're gonna play for you the audio of the interview I did out at Long Acres today with Jordan Morris, where we talked about this matchup coming up with LAFC, the team's mentality, and also one interesting quote at the end that after we play this audio, I'll give you a little take on that.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes No Sarietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.
Out at Long Acres with Jordan Morris ahead of the conference semifinals against LAFC. Jordan, I think the first thing that people are thinking about with this matchup is just the recent history between these two teams. They've had the better of it, at least this year. When you're going into a matchup against a team like this that has gotten the better of you over the last few matchups, what's sort of the mentality and approach when you're going into this game?
I think just having belief. Obviously, they have gotten the better of us the last few times, and it's frustrating. We know how good of a team they are, but we know how good of a team we are as well. And I think you see that over the back half of the season, how we've played and kind of climbed the table and gotten to where we are. So I think just having confidence, belief that we can play with anyone in this league, including this team. But again, we know how it's going to be a big challenge, and we know the threat that they pose. But I think it starts with just having that belief.
So you guys were in a pretty similar situation to this in 2019. The LAFC was crazy that year. They had the plus 48 goal differential.
Yeah.
That was the year Vela had like 34 and 15.
Yeah.
And I think that year, no one thought you guys were going to win that game.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of a similar dynamic this year with how people are thinking of it.
Yeah.
Can you guys kind of like lean on that past experience here where you've been in this exact situation against this exact team and kind of like, I guess, lean into the underdog role a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I think you can go into that with that mentality a little bit, and I think you can take confidence from that game. Like you said, they were, on top of the league that year. They're first in the West this year, so kind of similar in that sense. And yeah, maybe embracing that underdog role a little bit. But I remember that game, it all just started with our mentality. Again, we had the belief as a group that we could go in there and win that game. So again, starting with that, but the mentality that we came out with at the beginning of that game, the intensity that we came out with, defensively we're super hard to break down, and then obviously scored some really good goals as well, Nico and Raul. So I think we can take confidence from that game, from that similar situation, and know we can hopefully go in and have a similar performance.
And you touched on it earlier, but you guys really, earlier in the season, it seemed like the offense was taking a while to get going. The results maybe weren't going your way as much, but second half of the season, it's turned around quite a bit, and you're now on this playoff run. What do you think changed within the group or within the team to kind of go from where you were struggling earlier in the year to now where you're making a run at another cup?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously beginning of the year we were dealing with maybe a little bit, no excuses, had some injury. Albert was hurt for a bit, different lineups, different formations. So that's, not always easy. We have confidence with everyone that we put on the field here. We have a great group, but just having that kind of cohesiveness and continuity with, between games wasn't maybe necessarily there in the beginning. We were shooting ourselves in the foot. I don't know how many red cards we got at the beginning of the year to lose games, giving up goals at the end of games. So, but yeah, I think we made some changes. I think we're very dynamic now in how we approach games and the players that we have on the field, and I think that's been obviously a big part of our success moving forward. But we're a really hard team to break down first and foremost. Obviously, you see with the defensive record, and then the offense has clicked a little more in the second half of the year. So it's going to take a team performance this weekend.
Okay, last one for you, and then I'll let you go. So I think with the hierarchy in the league right now, Inter Miami was a huge story this year with the team that they put together. You've got Columbus up there, both LA teams in the West. You guys maybe aren't as talked about in that group at this moment. Do you kind of look at this playoff run as a chance to, I guess, sort of make a statement in the sense of we're maybe not talked about with these teams anymore, but we're still here. We've won a couple MLS Cups. We have Champions League. Do you kind of look at it as a chance to sort of assert yourselves back in that dominant tier?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, Columbus, Miami are incredible teams, but you see what happens. Anything can happen in the playoffs, right? Teams can lose because it's the parity in this league is there. And so I think, for us, we want to get back into that kind of top class group in MLS. We heard, as much as you try not to read things, we heard what people were saying in the middle of the season, that maybe we weren't even going to make the playoffs, that our quote unquote run as a team was over, whatever everyone was saying. We all heard that, and we of course took it personally. We know how good we are as a group, and what a team we have here, and we believe within the group that we can make a run, and I think we can prove it. There were people giving us no chance, halfway through the year to be where we are, even where we are now, but to make a run in MLS Cup, of course, is in our minds to get back talked about as part of that group. But again, that's not why we do it. We do it for the group here, and the belief that we have here, and we see each other every day working so hard, and all season we've had that belief that we can go on a run and win MLS Cup. So it would definitely be validating. We have a really tough game coming up, so that's all we're really thinking about right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
it as always. Good luck.
Man. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, so yeah, I think that last quote was the money quote where he outright says that he and the other players on the team, they saw what a lot of the pundits, prognosticators like us were saying about them earlier this year, and he said that they took that personally and that they are looking to kind of reassert themselves among the Inter Miamis and Columbuses and the upper tier teams in the league. And I think, that's a good thing for Seattle to tap into in this matchup. Lean into the underdog role and lean into the no one expects us to win this game type of mentality. They did that to great effect in 2019, like Jordan and I were talking about. And if they're going to win this game, I think they have to channel a similar type sentiment.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I love this version of Jordan that we're getting. This mean, tough Jordan who has this chip on his shoulder, who's kind of blossomed into, honestly, he is a talented striker and one of the better strikers in the league, and he's kind of owning that. And I'm excited to see this game. I know a lot of people are dreading playing LAFC again. I don't really care how this game turns out, as long as the Sounders put up a fight.
I agree
as long
with
as
that.
the Sounders put up a fight.
And I think that's a good segue into our collab with Happy Foot Sad Foot, where we talk more in depth, preview wise, about this LAFC versus Seattle Sounders Western Conference Semifinals matchup.
And we're back with our returning champions, our good friends, two of the only good MLS podcasters. Please welcome Noah and Ari from Lobbing Scorchers up in Seattle. How you doing?
Good. Appreciate that intro. And yeah, really excited for these two teams to play each other. This is a matchup that you don't really get a lot. So it's just going to be really interesting to see two teams that just, don't know each other that well face off and go at it.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of speculation around, will they, won't they? What's going to happen? There's not really much precedent for these two teams playing each other this season, the last season. So, it's almost a once in a lifetime opportunity coming up here.
It is special when two teams, this is like one of those dream matchups, right? Like when a guy goes from WWE to AEW and you finally get to see him fight, it feels like that's what we're getting this weekend.
This is not a Sporting Kansas City podcast. We don't have to get into wrestling.
But in all seriousness, though, I think there's probably some Seattle people that are dreading this matchup, just given the recent history between these two teams, which I think we all know and recognize. But I don't know. I was thinking about it today, and the way I feel about it is like the streak is never going to end if you don't play LAFC anymore. So there's really no reason to like dread this matchup. Like I'm excited for it. Like let's do it. Let's do it again.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to know from your guys' perspective. I think, I'm not looking forward to it because I do feel like you guys have a chip on your shoulder about our team, and you've also been playing better lately from what I've seen. Tell us what what's different about Seattle since the last time we played you at Star Fox 64 Field.
Well, I think what you have is a team that's played a lot better during the back half of the season, pretty much universally, except for when they play LAFC specifically. So they definitely, since the Open Cup games and really since these two teams faced off last time, Seattle's been in pretty good form, really good form, honestly. But what's different about them? I don't know if there's that much different, but I think the defense is playing at an extremely high level right now. You saw that in the Houston series, and there's still challenges offensively, but the offense has by and large functioned much better pretty much from the summertime onward, just not against LAFC, which is the hurdle that they're going to have to get over here.
Yeah, I don't really think there's been much different. I think that's kind of been an issue with the Sounders. Not saying that we're not going to, roll in there and bam 5 goals on you guys, but it's been a good attack when you see Jordan Morris and Albert Rusnak playing really well, and it's been very different when you don't see them playing at all, which we saw against Houston, and we trolled 2-0. Was it 1-1? I don't know. 1-1, 0-0. Who cares? Whatever. And got bailed out with some really dumb red cards. So not excited, not really different, but also completely different just because of the vibes.
For LAFC fans that have been like overconfident, and even for these guys here on the podcast, I've been reminding people that LAFC has never beaten Seattle playing at home in a playoff game. And I think what I want to ask you guys is it a benefit that there are so many players still on the team from when you played LAFC in 2019 and beat us at home? And is it going to be bad that Edward Atuesta is still on our team, but will be on the bench? Because clearly he was your best player in that game.
I think it is a benefit that Seattle has a lot of guys who were there in 2019. I was out at Sounders training today, and I was talking to Jordan Morris about exactly that. I asked him that.
Real journalist.
Said, yeah, real boots on the ground journalism. I asked him that exact question, and he said, yeah, like we can lean on that. We've been in this situation before. And he was sort of talking about how they don't kind of mind the underdog role, which Seattle is definitely, I don't think, it reminds me a lot of 2019 in the sense that I don't think anybody really expects Seattle to win this game. And I think they're playing with house money a little bit. And when you're in that situation, you can play a little freer. And I think that's what we were talking about. I was hoping they would lean into for the Open Cup game because they were the underdog there too. And that didn't really power them through that time. But like, it just feels like the odds are even more stacked against them this time, even though I do think the 2019 LAFC team was better than this one.
And for some reason, Seattle hates to play at home. It's like their least favorite thing in the entire world. They would rather, travel to the Siberian Peninsula and, kick around on a frozen pitch. So somehow I feel like it is, like you're saying, they've never beat the Sounders at home in the playoffs. I think, there's kind of a feeling there of like, they can just block everything out, go do that, figure it out. You win, you lose. You were never meant to be there in the first place. So
We hate playing at your stadium too. To
Law
be
of
fair.
averages. That this streak statistically just can't go on forever.
Yeah.
So
We're big stats guys
I'm
here.
big stat guy. Once you get to the 7th matchup in a row or whatever this is, like just eventually it's got to flip. If for no other reason than that, it's not going to last forever.
I just want to say we're big. Careful what you wish for. Things can always get worse, guys. So just gonna throw that out there.
Oh yeah.
I got to tell myself something.
Yeah, we've got like, what are we supposed to do here? It's like, oh, here we go again. Time to go to work at the gonna lose factory. Like, so you still gotta wake up in the morning and put your boots on and
You guys got a
your
union
job. And
You're
I don't know if
losing
you guys
so
have
much.
had the experience of having watched your team lose to the same opponent 6 times in a row. You get to a point where it kind of stops affecting you in the same way that a normal loss does.
yeah, well, I mean, maybe they understand with like finals, but maybe that would be it.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
I'm
we
trying
won
to remember
most
the last
important
final we just
of the
played
year.
Yeah.
Of all time, which is
That's
the
right.
America's Cup.
The People's
That's true.
Trophy.
You can get a couple more, and then you can come talk to us.
How many U.S. Open Cups equals one MLS Cup?
Oh,
well,
I think 5. I think
Sounders-
5.
Sounders
I would say
should
5.
have
I think Seattle's
calculated
got
that of all
4, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that calculation has been made,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Got
I
to be
do think it's
divisible
fair.
somehow.
When I think of some of my worst memories as an LAFC fan, Seattle is involved a lot of the time. And so
Yeah.
I think like going into this match, I have some I'm not looking forward to either if we beat you, then playing the Galaxy, but also this match. Like I have so much fucking PTSD from that 2019 game where we were, it must be like how Miami felt, where we felt invincible. And then it was just some of the ugliest soccer I've ever seen. And I left really sad, I would say, very sad.
The way Seattle plays hasn't changed a whole lot, unless I'm mistaken, too. And like they're annoying. Like, do you enjoy watching the team that you root for have that style? Like,
I'll let Ari answer that one because I'll do the hotter take here.
I think there was definitely a point this season where the attacking play was so anemic that it was hard to watch because it just felt like pulling teeth the whole time. For me, like since the offense picked up a little bit, I have started to enjoy watching them again because there's a lot of very, very, really awesome, talented players on the team that do really cool stuff out there. But like, it's not the same experience as watching Inter Miami where they're going to hang 4 or 5 goals on you because they have a bunch of the best players that have ever played the game. But me personally, I can appreciate a team that plays elite defense, is very technically skilled, and is opportunistic in attack and in transition, which is really honestly been the Sounders' identity for a long time now. So I don't honestly think it's that much different, except earlier in the year, they just weren't scoring goals.
Yeah, like, is it interesting to watch? Sure, like, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, I've seen, I've seen us lose to San Jose. Like, that was the worst thing in the world. But
well, yeah,
happened to us.
Lost Andrew at home against the Quakes this year.
Yeah, so I think where my frustration comes is this: like, there's a lot of and what a lot of Sounders fans feel is it's almost there. It's almost there. I dubbed this the season of almost, where like we got so close, but just not there. You have Paul Rothrock putting in dimes, and it seems like, maybe 1 out of 5 of those Jordan Morris is finishing. 1 out of 8 of those Jordan Morris is finishing. So you're just like, God damn it. Get your foot out there. You're like 7 feet tall. Like, put that ball in the back of the net. There's no Denny Bouanga where you can just be like, I'm confident that the GOAT is going to go out there and just like go crazy. So it's a little frustrating, but like Ari said, it's actually really fun to watch good defensive soccer, and even more impressive like when you understand where the team's at and just how talented Brian Schmetzer is at utilizing this group of what is essentially, like, in my opinion, you have a really high like ceiling and then everything just kind of falls off after that.
I did not leave that Open Cup game confident in our ability to play well against Seattle. It felt like that game could have gone either way. It was true chaos the whole way. And so while this will be an adult-sized pitch, I do think it'll be I am not going into this game overconfident the way that I think some fans of LAFC are.
And one thing I would hang, the Seattle hat on is Brian Schmetzer is a good tactical coach. I don't care what anyone says. Him and his team getting to play the same club and get their ass beat multiple times, I think that's a good indication of like he can work through that. So I'm doing a little copium here, but I gotta hit that somewhere.
The other thing I'll say is that the way I think of it is if Seattle wins this game, it makes the whole losing streak versus LAFC worth it, because ending that streak by knocking LAFC out in the playoffs in their own building again, it would be like a full circle bit, you know? And I would appreciate, like, I would look back on the losing streak versus LAFC with fondness if they win this game.
Yeah.
If they win this game. If they lose this game, then it's just another part of the streak.
Yeah.
But,
I think that's totally fair. I think that's earned.
And,
Beating
you
it
know,
twice at home in the playoffs is a fluke. 3 times is a pattern, and then we have a streak.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And, you know, you're in the driver's seat right now. It's, you know, we would argue, because we're a Galaxy podcast, we would argue Galaxy's in the driver's seat to win the cup this year. But, you know, with how the East is shaking out, it seems like LAFC is in the driver's seat. The pressure's on you.
whoever wins this game has a really good chance at coming out of the West. Not just, I mean, obviously because they're in the West final, but Minnesota, I don't think is scaring that many people. And the Galaxy, for how much we're a Galaxy apologist podcast, they love to choke and give up really bad goals in inopportune moments.
It's like their top 5 favorite like moments. It's like David Beckham, Robbie Keane, and then giving up really shitty goals. That's like their favorite things. Ricky Puig is in there too with his fancy jeans. He's hot.
What a well-dressed man.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you go, we came up with a really dumb segment that we want to play with you guys. And Darren and I were a few beers deep at a bar after our last game, and we came up with the softest idea of all time. And it's called You Gotta Admit. And here's how it works. We'll go back and forth. Someone from our show will say a you gotta admit, then someone from your show will say a you gotta admit. And we'll say something that we think reflects your team or your city. And then you guys get to decide, the opposing podcast gets to decide whether or not they gotta admit that. Does that make sense? So and we'll be honest. We have to admit something, we will say whether or not we gotta admit it. Okay?
We can commit to that as well.
Yeah.
Great. So I'll go first just so we get the ball rolling and we have a feel for it, and then we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
You got to admit, the Sounders are so irrelevant that some people think Charlie XCX made up that shade of green.
You kind of do have to admit that.
Yeah, you do got to admit that.
You do have to admit it.
Middling,
I
bright
never,
green.
I didn't make the connection between those shades of green, but it's true.
Sounders are brat.
Brad
If you're not going to make that connection, who is?
Yeah, we really saw how that strategy worked out. So
yes, it's a winning strategy.
Yeah. All right, I got one.
Yeah.
All right. You got to admit that it's pretty funny that LAFC signed Olivier Giroud, the leading goal scorer in the history of the French national team, World Cup winner, and Kai Kamara is still a better option than him on the depth chart at striker.
I'll admit that.
I think we'll admit that pretty quickly.
I was just thinking about it today. Like,
I think he doesn't start.
Yeah. Like if I'm Steve C and I'm making this lineup, I'm literally starting Kai Kamara over Olivier Giroud, which is funny because Kai Kamara is like the definition of an MLS lifer, and Olivier Giroud, you can't get over him on the depth chart. Impossible.
He literally was just in the Sierra Leone on his 40-year-old legs, traveling across the world, and will be coming back a couple of days before the game. But yeah, let's move on.
I love him. I did ask him to come and play in Seattle after this year, and he looked at me longingly at the shitty field and just shook his head. And I'm like, damn.
I'm surprised he didn't say. I'm surprised he didn't say, "Wait, I haven't already." Did I? He's like, I've lost count myself.
All right, I think you guys
should we do another one?
Yeah, that's how it works. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. the first one I had in mind was also about the color, so I got to switch one.
Oh, you guys
This is
changed
good
that?
stand up right here. This is how I would be at an open mic, just like
All of ours are about the shade of green.
Okay.
I don't know.
What else I got?
Guys, you
What
guys
else?
don't
What
like
else is
colors? I
happening in
guess
the news?
it's gonna be a long night.
you guys seen
okay.
that TikTok app? Charlie XCX, everybody.
You got to admit, Jordan Morris runs like a fat kid realizing he can actually run for the first time during a relay race at summer camp.
Oh my God, this is so much more
Yeah.
elaborate than mine. Yeah, you do have to admit that. You do have to admit that.
My dad says he looks like he runs with a stick up his ass, so that's always in my head at all
He's
times.
moving really fast, but it is pretty
Yeah,
funny.
It used
still
to be better.
maintains-
He used to be like a lot. I think he went to the gym. He used to be like a more chubby, kind of like big hunk of meat kind of situation. But he
That's early in
he
his
looks
career.
like
Yeah.
a soccer player now.
He's a lean
Yeah.
cut now.
Yeah, he had the freshman 15 on from his Stanford days, but it was like 45. Oh boy.
You got to do one. I already did one.
Fuck.
So.
Okay, I had one, but I don't know if it's good. You got to admit that LA drivers are some of the worst in the entire country. But damn, does Ilie know how to sell a tire?
Wow,
That was a good one. That was a good
Yeah.
one.
that turned into a compliment.
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah. I would love to admit that. He's got the smart choice. And I honestly think changing lanes without your blinker, also the smart choice.
I do have a
I-
sticker that says, "You don't have to tell me you're from California. I can tell by the way you drive." And I stand by that.
I actually proved what you just said on my way home just now on a Continental tire. It was essentially flat. And I went to a gas station and filled it up as much as I could and still drove home. So I think I proved both of those points.
And you could roll that into how you've got to admit that the Sounders are kind of like a tire that you just keep filling up and it's leaking air,
Yeah.
but you're just trying to get to the next off season.
fair.
Well, I guess you guys go. You just did ours
Okay,
for
you
us.
have to go. I got it.
I have to go again. All right. I'm just going to come up with one right on the spot right
Yeah.
now. All right.
This is really good crowd work right now.
You got to admit that when Steve C talks, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. You got to admit that when Steve C talks, he sounds like it's like a soccer robot. I would describe it like he gets asked a question, and just like his vocabulary
Steve
and
CBT.
also the way he, they'll be like, Steve, what do you need to do to go win the game this weekend? And he's like, well, we have to go out there, and we have to score more goals than the other team, and then we will win the game. Like he's very.
It
gotta
is a
admit,
chatbot.
he's like a cyborg up on the podium.
Steve Chat GPT, is that what the C
Yeah.
stands for?
There we
Yeah.
go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It took me a while to formulate.
It's okay. That
take,
one was
but
that
I
was
just-
that was a banger, Ari. I don't. Yeah, that was a banger.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think. Well, I mean, Vince and Steve are good friends. Vince, are you? Do you agree that Steve?
I will.
Sucks?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree because he has just this utter contempt for the media.
That too.
Yeah.
And really, it's just him being like, I have to be here, but I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to give you anything to actually write about. So here's a bunch of soccer terms.
The voice does read as, if you want, it reads as like saying it through gritted teeth. Like, I can't believe I have to talk to you at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
speaking solely about myself mostly. It was a tough go, me and him.
Yeah.
Vince, do you want to?
I do.
you
I have
wanna-
one that I think will be controversial. Maybe you guys will actually.
Let's hit
push
it.
back.
Yeah,
hit it.
Because
Yeah.
I'm trying to stew
Yeah.
one up here, and it's just we're running into
Well,
stage fright.
You got to admit that while many noteworthy things in Sounders history have occurred at Starfire, the field's actual historical significance is that Denny Bouanga christened it with a stream of piss before the Open Cup
That's right.
semifinal.
Yeah,
You do have
that's
to
pretty.
admit
Yeah,
that.
that's pretty good. That's
Damn,
top
yeah.
5 Sounder. I mean, it's. I gotta say, actually, that's the one I disagree with because
See, that's why I said I knew it was going to be controversial.
the amount of shithousery that's happened there, I think that's like there's
It's
a 1A,
true.
1B. I think that's 1B just because he pissed all over us in that game.
Literally.
So like that's there. 1A is Clint Dempsey absolutely bullying a referee, stealing his notebook out of his hands and ripping it up. Like
in a game where you had 3 players get ejected, 1 go out injured. You finish the game with 7 guys against Portland, and Obafemi Martins goes out for like 3 months because of that game. Like
Yeah,
that
that
was
just
the
like-
all-time Starfire
Yeah.
game, no question. But the LAFC Open Cup game this year with Denny Bwanga
Mhm.
pissing on the field was very good.
Bad officiating, handball winner, like just that's a banger. That's a
I
banger.
do think
a banger.
if you beat us, someone from your team should piss on the field at BMO.
Oh,
Yeah.
just right,
Well,
right center
okay,
pitch.
here's last one. You got to admit, in 2019 when Seattle knocked LAFC out the playoffs and Nuhu kicked the can of Dos Equis back into the stands after someone threw it at him, that rocked.
Yeah.
You gotta
Well, or
admit.
you could just say that was his best shot on target of his career.
It's the
That's
cleanest
true.
strike he's ever hit.
Yeah, exactly. There we
It
go.
actually was, yeah.
And I will admit that honestly, like of all the things that you could do in that moment, it's pretty fucking badass.
Yeah.
Like,
And
Yeah.
the picture they got of it is my all-time
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah. I have one more.
okay.
Okay,
While
go
Steve
for it.
C may be one of the best coaches in the league, you've got to admit that Vanni Sartini is way better at giving head.
You gotta admit, I don't have
Shut
any.
it down.
admit.
It's over.
I don't. Yeah. Look,
He's
he
the only one who's
certainly-
given us any evidence.
No, I have some evidence with Dolo. I think that Vanny's better.
Wait.
Okay, that's our segment.
We do
I
have,
have.
we
I'll-
have an
I'm gonna-
embarrassing amount more that
No,
that we can
I,
skip.
that's fine.
I
That's
like
fine.
the segment. It's a
Yeah.
good segment.
I do
I'm
want
so
to
sorry
end
that we
on.
have now ruined all of your sponsorship opportunities, but that's what we're here for.
Thank you so
we
much.
did that on our
Skipper
own
Wedge.
just fine.
We'll end it with one that I think you guys you'll very much disagree with. You got to admit, Paul Rothrock, not even that handsome. Not that handsome.
Ooh, bad
Ooh,
take.
bad take.
Bad take.
Wow.
Bad take.
That's shots
Bad
fired.
take.
We'll stand for a lot, but I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Are you coming to the game? Will we see you on Saturday?
We're actually neither of us are. I had like Thanksgiving travel plans like already set, so I
I
just
was
couldn't
planning
go.
on it, and then I have to work or some shit. It's
Ooh,
really
fucking
dumb.
bullshit.
I just
That's a drag.
yeah.
Sounds like
I-
neither of you were really anticipating Seattle being this far into the playoffs. Is
Well,
that what
when when we eventually go face off against the team that we do the podcast about, the LA Galaxy,
Mhm.
I'll
we
go to
will.
that.
We will
I'll go to
yeah, we
that,
will be
yeah.
going to that game.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
We'll hit you
Well,
guys up.
enjoy-
We'll hit you up. We can do
It's
a
much
collab.
closer to the airport.
We should all go together.
Yeah, I'm down. I
Um,
know the mascot. He's a cool guy.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
have we have
he
questions.
sells
actually.
great weed.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here. If people want to listen, how do they find you?
Lobbing Scorchers on all platforms.
Sounderatheart.com/LS.
And then
Subscribe and support, folks. The best Seattle soccer coverage is on there.
sub
We
to-
want your money.
Sub to our YouTube. We're trying
Yeah.
to get to 1,000 subs.
But realistically, find us on YouTube, Lobbing Scorchers.
They can at least do that. That's free.
Yeah,
Every
it's free.
single person listening right now, go subscribe to Lobbing Scorchers on YouTube. We love them. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully you won't be popping champagne next time we talk to you.
We'll see.
Appreciate you guys. Looking forward to the game. Thank you so much to Happy Foot, Sad Foot. Always love collabing with those guys. They're great guys, aren't they?
They're the best.
We're going to keep collabing with them going
Don't worry.
forward, so don't
Yeah.
even worry about that. But fun talking about this game with them and how they're thinking of it from the LAFC perspective. I think we're just about ready to wrap it up for episode 74 here, Noah. But I did want to give you an update on my U.S. men's national team punditry as they're in CONCACAF Nations League right now before we sign off the show. And this is actually this is at the end of the show, but this is a seminal moment for me because last night I was watching CONCACAF Nations League, Pochettino era. We're playing Jamaica. This was the tournament that last year that I was watching, and I really loved what I saw from the team when they beat Mexico.
Made you find God.
It made
famously.
me find God famously. But today I've decided
You're an atheist.
I am out on my USMNT fandom, and I'm converting to become a Canadian. Now, I know this is going to be controversial. People aren't going to like the fact that they're going to call me a traitor, turncoat. I'm abandoning my country.
Yeah.
That's fine. Do you want me to explain my rationale for why I'm defecting to Canada?
I
real
mean,
quick?
other than rancid vibes, which I've been on, let's hear it, Ari.
It's true. I will give you credit. You've been on this train for longer than I have. I've been an outspoken U.S. men's national team fan throughout my soccer fandom. You've been saying that the vibes were bad around this team for a while. I was in denial about that. But
It's okay.
I think that brings me to my first point, which is that, I just don't like the vibes of the players in our player pool. I think there's way too much acting like they've arrived when they have not won anything. And I think just first and foremost, I would like to reiterate that this stuff about the golden generation, until they prove it otherwise by winning something like they act like they have.
I'm sorry, the Gold Cup,
the golden generation,
the Gold Cup.
Okay,
It's
they go
therefore they can be
until they win
yeah.
something of significance and do anything at a higher level than previous iterations of this team. That's propaganda. I don't want to hear the term golden generation ever again until they actually win something of substance, and that's coming from someone who bought into that propaganda. So like just their general vibe with that, and then also what rubs me the wrong way watching that Jamaica game last night. You know, Christian Pulisic, Captain Pulisic, he does the Trump dance celebration. Weston McKennie does it with him, and you know, I really don't care, Noah, about them like doing the dance themselves. But you know, we've seen this across other sports too, where they do the little dance. They get asked about it afterwards, and then they got nothing to say. And I can't respect that. Like if you do something like that, you're doing it with the intent of being seen about it. You have a point that you want to make, and then people ask you about it. Nick Bosa did it. Brock Bowers did it in the NFL. They asked Nick Bosa after the game. He said, I don't want to talk about it, but it's an important moment.
Yeah.
What is that? That's cowardly. Brock Bowers, the Raiders PR staff, ended the interview when the reporters asked him about that, that pisses me off, because that's the implication, like, oh, the media is like asking something that's out of line. But it's like, no, you brought that on yourself. Whatever happened to standing on business? Whatever happened to that? And after the game last night, they asked Pulisic about it, and he said, I just thought it was funny. So that, to me, it just shows that he's not really about it. He's got nothing to say. He's got nothing of substance that he actually wants to put forth about anything that he's talking about. And I just don't like that. I think that's whack. I think that's cowardly. I think it's whack that Weston McKennie also like joined in on this, and just the whole culture and vibe of the team. I don't like it. I'm a Canadian fan now, so that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Jesse Marsh up the Leafs.
Yes, and Jesse Marsh. Have you seen his press conferences?
Yeah, he's the best.
They're
ever,
hilarious.
Dude, I love him.
They're like, are you offended by not getting the consideration for the U.S. job? He's like, no.
He's like, no, fuck
I don't
that
want
place.
to. And that's, I could go into like my other takes on just the general incompetence and shit showness of the federation itself, which also plays into it. But anyway, I'm off to Canada. That's how I feel about that.
Man, it feels like a sad day, because I don't have anyone to banter around with, to be on the side of our lovely stuck up sweethearts, the U.S. men's national team.
Canada's team is way, like Alphonso Davies, way better than any player that we have.
True.
I guess Canada is we now.
Yeah.
Kyle Larin and Jonathan David, way better than any striker we have. So it's just better vibes, and I feel good about my decision.
Here's what I'll say. Pochettino, I was promised a complete switch up, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like there is better tactical play for sure, but that's about it. And my issues were never with, I don't give a shit if we lose. Every single person on that team is just fucking annoying. And I just hate that. And everyone around the team is annoying. And every fan online is fucking annoying. Remember the Tyler
Adams quote of "I'm the best in the world"? Yeah, like I'm done with that. Like, you guys think way too highly of yourselves for having not done anything of significance more than you know what the real golden generation was. This is such a tangent, but you know what the real golden generation was? Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and a bunch of MLS lifers. That was the golden generation.
Michael Bradley.
Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan. All right. I got to stop myself because I'm going to just do a whole nother podcast. We're going to call it right there for episode 74. Thank you, as always, everyone, for tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Please sub to the YouTube. Follow the Instagram and TikTok. Write us a review. All that stuff helps.
Share with Weston McKinney.
Share. Christian Pulisic, I'm calling you out.
Yeah, come
you
on the
got
pod.
something to say? Come say it on Lobbing Scorchers. Until next time, we out.
Peace.